I want to thank everyone for coming on this evening. If you're coming from our wonderful friends in Germany and Eastern Europe, as well as Western Europe, we want to say thank you for tuning in. If you're coming in from New Zealand or Australia,
And
and
the
obviously the
UK.
UK
Yeah.
and the US group. So we're excited here. I'm Stephen Cherniske, research biochemist. We have this call, which is the Zinzino Science Insight call. The main purpose is to keep everybody kind of up to date. We are members of the Zinzino Scientific Advisory Board. At the same time, we want to help you build your business. And that means what? Taking complex science, number one, making it simple so that everyone can understand it and everyone can train on it. And number two, we're here in case you have someone who just needs to dig a little bit deeper. Sometimes you'll be talking to a health professional, and they are really keenly interested in the very minute details of maybe the new gut health test. We're there for you. You can reach us by text, you can reach us by email, you can invite them to this call, and we can answer their questions. And if it's too complicated, we'll probably take it offline and work with them offline. But we want to be here as a resource for you. Again, my name is Stephen. I'm a research biochemist. This is Natalie, my wife.
And I'm a medical doctor. And we were introduced to Zinzino back in early 2024. And we were really impressed by the science, the patents, the scientists, the resources, and of course, the vision of where this company is going. And they just released their gut health test, which has been 7 years in the making. And it has all of its patents and because of its uniqueness. And let me just say that as a former clinician working in functional medicine, anti-aging, family medicine, metabolic medicine, how great it is to have this finger stick blood test to get so much valuable information about how the gut is functioning instead of relying on an assessment of, well, who's in the stool.
Right.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, let's dig in. This week, I thought what we'd do is look at something that came across our desk. As you can imagine, we feel that it's important for us, not only as advisory board members, to contribute to the Zinzino endeavor, but we think it's important for us to just be aware of really what's being published in the medical literature that's important for us to relay to you in a way that you can use it. And so, in that regards, there was one study that came across my desk this afternoon, which was about something called the lifespan versus health span gap. Let's bring that up, Natalie, so I can explain a little bit more. As you can probably guess, the lifespan is simply the number of years that you're going to be alive, right? That's your lifespan. Your health span is the number of years that you're going to be alive and healthy, right? Which means there's probably going to be a gap there.
Which means I'm independent and caring for myself.
Thank
And
you.
I don't need someone to help me with my hygiene or
Right.
come in and cook my meals for me or help me bathe.
So let me put it a different way. If I told you you could live an extra 20 years, you'd probably be really happy, right? You say, "Oh yeah, I'll take that bargain. I'd love to live another 20 years." But what if I said, "Well, yeah, but the last 10 of those 20 years, you're going to be decrepit, you're going to be in constant pain." Then would you take that bargain? And the answer is no, that's
And
not a
that would
bargain.
be lifespan.
Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to understand, what is the science telling us? Is it good news or bad news? And obviously, you can probably guess it's not good news. You've heard this from us. You've heard it from Paul Clayton. You've heard it from Dr. Colin Robertson. The average health span lifespan gap, that is the years lived without disease or disability, was 9.6 years. Now that's worldwide. The gap has actually increased, which means that there's more years of pain and suffering. There's more years of pain and suffering than there was in the years past. It's increased by about 13% globally. Life expectancy, which was about 72.5 years, all right, Nowadays, it's all the way down to the healthy years being only about 63.3 years. So, interestingly, there's a sex disparity. Women had an average 2.4 more years of pain and suffering compared to men. Natalie, you want to make a comment on that?
Um, yeah, I hate the idea of that, but I'm also thinking about um muscle is magic and men have more muscle and I think that when w women aren't mindful about their strength and they're like, well, I'm becoming weaker. Oh well, they don't understand the risk that they're creating for themselves in this disparity of your activities of daily living are going to change. You're going to lose your independence. You're going to become more dependent. Life will not be fun anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you tweeze the numbers on that last factoid there, that women have a larger health, well, a larger gap in their lifespan and their health span. The researchers pointed out a couple of other things. So one was there was a greater number of women with Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. And two was obviously as you mentioned, Natalie, the frailty, the osteoporosis, and in the loss of muscle mass. So let's move on here. Let's look at the countries where there is the worst news, and the countries with the largest gap. And we're number one here in the U.S. 12.4 years of pain and suffering. Australia, 12.1 years. New Zealand, 11.8 years. UK, 11.3 years. And in Norway, 11.2 years. Now, why are these countries the ones with the greatest gap? Well, in part, it's because we have done a better job of extending lifespan, right? We've done a better job compared to a lot of the countries in Africa, for example. We've done a better job increasing lifespan, but we have not done a good job in improving health span. So let's look at what we can do about that because I took to ChatGPT, as many of you do, and I said, ChatGPT, review this study for me and then give me the top 5 research validated diet, lifestyle, and supplement interventions that could help to improve this lifespan health span gap. So, what do you think a ChatGPT came up with? All right. I asked for 5. Number 1, optimize metabolic health and insulin sensitivity.
Hey, Zinzino has a hemoglobin A1C test, a finger stick test you can do at home without having to get blood drawn or go see your doctor.
Wonderful. So, how does you probably understand what we're doing here? We're pointing out the fact that this ChatGPT, this AI model, I asked for 5 interventions that could help to improve this dire situation here in all those countries, and your country was probably one of those countries mentioned on the list. If that's the case, what do you want to be paying attention to? What could you do? What can you talk to your friends and family about? Number 1, make sure you understand what your hemoglobin A1C is. Optimize metabolic health. Number 2,
No, no, no. It says emphasize low glycemic,
ah,
fiber rich, polyphenol dense foods, right? Okay, now we can go on to
okay.
number 2.
Number 2, target chronic inflammation. Why? Inflammaging. I thought we invented that term, and maybe we did. Maybe ChatGPT picked it up. Inflammaging drives degenerative disease and functional decline. So, how can you improve that? Mediterranean style anti-inflammatory diet. All right.
In olive polyphenols and omega-3s.
There's a reason why we call this the Mediterranean diet in a bottle. So people understand that. That's a little phrase that you might want to write down because the simple issue here is this is not fish oil. This is not fish oil. This is a Mediterranean diet in a bottle. Okay, let's move on.
Well, the whole issue of chronic inflammation, people can actually assess and not guess by
Ah,
using the balance test to find out where that chronic cellular inflammation
thank you.
number is at.
In
Yeah.
fact, we've often said when Natalie and I are talking to healthcare professionals, we often tell them that this balance test is a good surrogate marker for inflammation throughout the body and brain. So that's critically important. So thank you. What does ChatGPT say would be the number three thing that everyone should do? Protect and rejuvenate the gut microbiome. So this is number three in terms of if you're going to be trying to improve your health span, this is number three.
So, of course, we can test and we don't have to guess about what's happening for how well our gut is functioning. Again, an easy finger stick dried blood spot test. And ChatGPT recommends diverse foods in
Yep.
our diet and prebiotics, but uh, prebiotics like xenobiotic, that
Yep.
makes good sense. And I'm so glad the gut test is there.
You know, I was happy and delighted actually to see that ChatGPT was said in number three, most important thing to do is to track the status of the tryptophan IPA to canuranin metrics, as in the new Zinzino gut test. Now, I would add, and I think I probably did as I was talking to ChatGPT, by the way, there is no other test that does that. So ChatGPT said, hey, there's a new Zinzino gut test where you can get this critically important information. And then, of course, number four, support cellular autophagy and senescent cell clearance. So, how to get rid of all these zombie cells? And ChatGPT said intermittent fasting, and then phytochemicals, which are fisetin, quercetin, curcumin, and fucoidan. Where do you get all of those?
In Xenogene,
Wow.
get rid of the old cells that are done and just making problems.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, that's number four. And number five, preserve muscle mass and strength, because the loss of muscle predicts frailty, disability, and mortality better than your cholesterol level. I'll say that again. The loss of muscle, all right, is a more of a factor contributing to your lifespan than your cholesterol level. So, what did ChatGPT say in that regard? Resistance training, obviously, enough protein, obviously, and the key nutrients, all right, leucine, which is a amino acid, vitamin D, and look at that, omega-3, DHA, and EPA as a way to maintain strength and muscle mass.
And you can test your vitamin D and not guess about how well it's doing. You want to be in the upper green range and keep it there. This will definitely help improve your muscle health and it makes exercise more fun.
Okay. Anyway, so you see that basically the bottom line here is that when we're using our AI tools, whether it's ChatGPT, whether it's Claude, Perplexity, whatever tool you're using, and I hope you are all using these incredible tools, it's wonderful to see how it reflects our exact endeavor here, which is what? Stay with me here. Everyone you talk to is interested in health. I doubt if you're going to talk to anybody or spend much time with someone who is not interested in their health. So, because they're going to be health conscious people, they're probably doing things to improve their health. What you have is an opportunity to say, look, we know that you're doing things. You're taking your nutritional supplements. You're trying to get exercise on a daily basis. You're watching you're improving your diet. But whatever you're doing, there's a foundation. There's an absolute foundation of things that you cannot overlook, because if you overlook the foundation, everything that you're doing on top will not work very well. What's at the foundation? The balance between the omega-6 and omega-3 ratio in every cell of your body. That is a measure of cell function. We're able to tell people we have a test, the Zinzino balance test, that measures cell functions. Since you are made of about 35 trillion cells, if we could improve the health and the performance of every one of those cells, do you think that would be a good thing? And of course, everyone understands, how would I do that? And the answer is you test, don't guess. And number two, we tell you the target to aim for. What is that target?
3 to 1 or better.
3 to 1 or better. So, Natalie, what have you got on the new test?
Well, inside of us is 100 trillion cells, and we want to make sure that they are optimally functioning too. Again, it's still about every cell of us, the host, and every cell of our gut microbiome. And so we want to make sure that they are doing the right thing and that they are taking the food that we take in and turning it into good stuff energy for us. Yeah.
Wonderful. Which brings up, the top three questions that came in this week about the gut health test. I'm going to cover the top three, and then if you have questions specific to the gut health test, we're going to open it up to anyone that has a question. But the three questions that came in so far this week, my doctor didn't know anything about this test. And I guess the questioner who asked that wanted to know, why did my doctor know about this? Well, because this is brand new. If you were in Oslo or if you watched the Oslo presentation, you understand that this is cutting edge, brand new. There was a reason that Colin came out on stage in an astronaut out on a spacesuit because he wanted to convey just how far ahead we are compared to what everybody else is doing. And in that regard, I'll say it again. There are tests that people have been using to measure the microbial uh, content of your gut, but that's just telling you who's there. This new test, which is much easier to perform, it's a finger stick test, all right? This new test is so much easier, it's less expensive, and it gives you more information, which is what? What are those microbes doing in terms of their metabolic activity? That's why it's called a metabolomic or
This is called the gut health
it's a
test.
gut health test. All right.
Metabolism of the gut.
Which leads to the question, the second question is, what is the elevator pitch? And Natalie gave you the elevator pitch. I'm going to ask you to do it one more time.
Yes. So other tests have told you who's in the gut. This test tells you how well they are functioning.
Okay. And the last test, or the last question, how is it possible? Because people who have been watching the videos and people have been listening to Dr. Colin, how is it possible that there are more cells in my gut than there are cells in my body? Well, it's interesting to think about, isn't it? Because it's a little bit difficult. All right. So the first thing, as Natalie points out, is the cells that we're talking about in your gut are very, 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 very small. All right.
Because there's 100 trillion of them and there's 37 trillion of me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the way I used to describe this to my students, because I wanted everybody to get this, not just to get it in terms of information. I wanted them to understand the impact of this information. So here's what I would tell them, because most of my students had been to New York City. And most of my students knew where Central Park was in New York City. And I would
How many
say,
people live in New York City?
a total, 9 million.
Okay. That
Right.
just gives perspective to other
Okay.
people that aren't familiar with.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I would say, imagine you're in New York City, right? And everybody say, okay, I'm imagining I'm in New York City. I say, now imagine you're walking, through Central Park. You got that? Yeah, I'm walking through Central Park. All right. And you're surprised to find in front of you, in the ground, a door. And you think, well, this is interesting. Where does this door lead to? And so you open the door, you climb down a stairway, and there you find a city bigger than New York.
Hidden, but even more
Hidden,
impactful.
but even more impactful. That's what's going on here. We have a population of microbes in our gut, which is more numerous than all the cells in your body. Do you think it's important to know what they are doing? And that's the new gut test. All right.
Function. Okay, we have some thoughts and questions here in the chat. Kathleen says, good morning. Good morning. Paul says, wow. Yeah, this is a bummer topic, but yeah, Paul points out we're hearing that many of today's children will die before their parents. Well, maybe not necessarily before, but they have shorter lifespans.
Yes.
And that is a very real prediction. Yeah. So yeah, so here's our opportunity to change that, right? That we're being smart about our health. It doesn't have to be that way. We can be active, we can not accept that prediction. We can make our children better than us.
Yes.
And some of you have heard me talk about build a better baby, the concept of, creating children that are much, much healthier than we are. A lot of people don't realize that our existence begins when our mothers are inside the uterus of our grandmother. And so, yeah. So, if we can think about what that grandma is eating,
Mm,
then what that mother is eating. And if the mother is in balance for at least a year before becoming pregnant,
mm,
and if the father can be in balance at least 6 months before helping create the baby,
mm.
and then having a baby that's in balance and stay in balance, building a better baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my dream. All right. And Susan says, wow, ChatGPT is current with Zinzino latest science. Yes, for personalized test-based nutrition for the gut. Carl says, good afternoon. Does diabetes affect your gut health? And so that's a great question about, does our metabolism affect the metabolism of who's living inside of us? And it's a give and take relationship. It's how well we are controlling our metabolism and what they do to us. Studies have been done with what's called fecal transplants, where you have a fat uh, rodent and you have a skinny rodent. And if you take material from inside the gut of the skinny rodent and feed it to the fat rodent, he gets skinnier,
Yeah.
and vice versa. The skinny one becomes fat. So they help determine our metabolism, and what we're doing affects them as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
So certainly we know that there are many factors in determining the ability of the body to metabolize starches and sugars, and that begins with the pancreas. Obviously, but it also, you have to remember that it also includes the dialogue between the liver and the muscle cells. The muscles are the ones that are going to be the biggest user of glucose. Secondly, obviously, your brain. But all of the fate of ingested starches and sugars, that to a very great extent is determined by the health of your liver, the health of your pancreas, and the amount of muscle you have on your body and how often you use those muscles to exercise.
And last week we talked about how quickly we can change and improve our gut health. Studies have shown that if you stop eating junk food and stop eating desserts, you can improve your gut health in as little as 4 days.
Wonderful. Yes.
So, yes, we affect them, they affect us. All right. All right. And Carl's waiting for his results. That's very exciting. Um, And Kathy Lee asks if we can use this information on social media. Yes, yes. And we want you to use this information to help you build your business. No, don't mention any disease states ever on any social media, but instead remember the every cell concept. Every cell in your body, every cell in your gut microbiome. And
And let me expand on that a little
yeah,
bit, because when you're talking to someone and someone says, can this help me with my arthritis? The first thing you say is, well, I'm not a doctor. All right, that number one gets you clear that you're not giving them medical advice. So always, hey, can this help with my arthritis? Well, number one, I'm not a doctor. Number two, here's what I know. What I know is that your joints, your tendons, your ligaments, all right, are all made up of cells. And I have a way that we can measure the function of those cells, right? And I have a way also that we can improve the function of those cells. So when Natalie says, always think of the cellular approach, you can always go back, no matter what question they asked, you can always go back and say, well, your body is made of cells. And if I can show you a way to measure the function, all right, of those cells, and also show you a way that you can improve the function of those cells, do you think that would be a good way to move forward with your health program?
Yeah, head to toe. And then Betsy asks about how soon should someone retest the gut test? And we are keeping with the message that it's 120 days, because when it comes to nutrition, we are creating a system and we want people to stay on that system. We are creating new good behaviors in what they are feeding into their bodies and into their gut microbiome. And so we choose 120 days, and that also perfectly times well with the balance test. Yep. Okay, great questions. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. And Paul, yes, we could talk about um, genetics and epigenetic effects and on grandparents and children for at least 3 days. But here's the easy information to work from. Our genetics only contribute 30% to our health. 70% is up to us about the choices we make for our life, our activity, our diet, the kind of positive energy we expose to our brain, and the negative energy we expose to our brain.
Nice.
And last week we talked about in the gut test, the kynurenine is what's made by the human tissue when stress is going on. We take tryptophan, and thus the easy thing to remember that it comes with stress. Oh, me, right? But we want to have a good IPA making day with our microbiome. So do things the healthy way, make more IPA, and let Zinzino show you the way.
Wow.
All right.
I'm gonna write that down. Okay. Thanks everyone for spending some time with us. We really are here for you. We want to make sure that you get your questions answered. You can submit questions anytime during the week. Thank you all for being on with us today. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Invite your friends, invite your skeptics, because there will be skeptics, and we love skeptics. We don't particularly like cynics, but skeptics we love.
Thank you very much. You are great. Absolute.
Guys.
Good to see you all.
All right, take care, Stephen.
Great to see
Terrific,
you.
thank you.
Take care, Dr.
That was
Natalie.
awesome.
I saw
Thank you.
John
Bye-bye.
Paul signed out.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.